You do not read people through their words. Words are camouflage. You read them through hesitation, through what they try to conceal. A man's silence is louder than his speech. His reaction to power reveals more than his opinions about it. The art of reading people is the art of stripping away illusion, and most illusions are self-made. People show you who they are when they believe you have stopped watching. That is when their mask slips, not by accident, but by instinct, for instinct is older than deceit. The first rule is this: never believe what people say when they are comfortable. Believe what they do when they are cornered. In comfort, every man is an idealist. In fear, every man is real. Fear is the great revealer. It unclothes the soul, exposes the anatomy of loyalty and ambition. When a person is afraid of losing, you finally meet their true self, not the image they project, but the hunger they serve. To read a person, study what they desire. Desire is the compass of every decision. It tells you who they serve, not in words, but in gravity. Desire pulls their thoughts, bends their choices, and betrays their masks. If you can see what a man wants, you can predict every move he will make, every loyalty he will break, every alliance he will seek. The wise ruler never asks, "What does he believe?" but rather, "What does he want?" People are not loyal to you. They are loyal to the version of themselves that exists in your presence. The art is to understand which self you awaken in them. Do you make them feel strong or small, needed or replaceable, admired or forgotten? Every relationship of power is built on an emotional exchange, a silent negotiation between ego and fear. To command others, you must know what they wish to hide and what they desperately wish to be seen. There is no manipulation in truth, only awareness. You manipulate not by creating illusion, but by understanding the illusions others already live under. The fool fights people. The wise man uses their patterns. The fool speaks. The ruler observes. You do not dominate through aggression, but through precision, through the quiet arrangement of perception. The silent manipulator never forces the outcome. He orchestrates conditions. He allows others to believe the decision is theirs. He offers them freedom, and they will choose what he already designed. That is the highest art of influence, to make people move of their own will toward your desired end. Command without commanding, rule without revealing. Most people wear their motives like armor, shiny enough to distract, heavy enough to slow them down. Their words are decorations on fear. Listen long enough, and you will hear the tremor of insecurity beneath every boast, the echo of envy beneath every compliment. The Machiavellian reader does not respond to what is said. He listens to the frequency of need. Every human being broadcasts it a signal that says, "Notice me, protect me, believe me, fear me." Learn that signal, and you will read people as effortlessly as the sky reads the wind. The weak seek approval. The ambitious seek advantage. The strong seek control. But the truly dangerous seek understanding, because when you understand people, you no longer fear them. You can predict their betrayal before it arrives, steer their ambition before it collides, turn their vanity into your ally. Observe how they treat those beneath them. Power always reveals itself downward. A man who humiliates the weak will betray the strong when given the chance. A man who flatters the strong fears his own insignificance. Watch how they speak to those they do not need. That is where their true nature whispers. Trust is the illusion of stability. In politics, in love, in business, all trust is temporary. It exists only as long as interests align. The Machiavellian does not reject trust, but uses it as currency. He lends it, never gives it. He measures loyalty not by words of devotion, but by the cost of disobedience. Those who stand with you only when convenient were never with you at all. To read people like Machiavelli is to see life as a theater of necessity. Everyone plays a role, and the wise man studies the script before stepping on stage. Do not condemn deceit, it is part of the design. The world rewards performance more than sincerity. Learn to recognize masks without despising them. They are tools, shields against exposure, armor for survival. If you wish to master the art of silent manipulation, begin with yourself. Know the masks you wear, the lies you tell, the fears you conceal. Only then will you see them in others without blindness. The ruler who cannot read himself will always misread his court. The politician who cannot control his emotions will always be ruled by someone who can. Control is not about domination, it is about timing. The patient observer controls the impulsive. The calm controls the chaotic. The man who waits sees the truth before others act upon illusion. Reading people is not about guessing intentions. It is about mastering patience until the truth emerges by its own gravity. Every silence contains a confession. Every smile hides a calculation. Every act of kindness seeks recognition or forgiveness. When you can stand in a room and see the web of motives glistening around you, every thread of envy, lust, fear, pride, you have stepped into the realm of true power. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. The world becomes transparent and terrifyingly clear. You will watch others move through their illusions, sincere, desperate, blind. You will understand why they betray, why they flatter, why they obey. You will see that manipulation is not cruelty. It is the natural language of survival in a world built on appearances. Do not boast about understanding people. That will only make them guard themselves. Let them underestimate you. Let them mistake your silence for ignorance, your calm for weakness. The greatest advantage is invisibility. Influence that is visible provokes resistance. Influence that is silent shapes destiny. You do not need to expose anyone. They will expose themselves. Give them time, give them comfort, give them power. All three reveal character more than interrogation ever could. And when the moment comes to act, act without hesitation. The reader of men who hesitates becomes the next page in another's story. Read deeply, observe coldly, move precisely. For in the theater of power, the audience applauds not the virtuous, but the victorious. This is the art of silent manipulation, the power that speaks through silence, the wisdom that sees without judgment, the strength that bends the will of others without ever raising its voice. And once you master it, you will walk among men not as one of them, but as the one who understands why they do what they do. For the world is not ruled by words, but by those who know what words hide. To see the world clearly is to lose your innocence forever. When you begin to read people with precision, you no longer see their charm, you see their tactics. You no longer hear their laughter, you hear their insecurity trembling beneath it. The art of perception is both a gift and a burden, for once you perceive human nature as it truly is, you can never again return to the comfort of illusion. You begin to see how every gesture, every tone, every choice of word is a weapon or a shield. You begin to realize that even kindness is often a transaction, a negotiation between guilt and gain. Most men act not from conviction, but from calculation. They do not ask what is right, but what will make them appear right. Thus, the Machiavellian reader walks among them with eyes open, neither condemning nor admiring, simply seeing. You must learn to separate a person's face from their function. In politics, in business, in love, every individual is a player performing within the invisible architecture of desire and fear. A ruler cannot afford to believe in purity of motive. Purity is an illusion that blinds. When you understand that all men pursue power in one form or another, status, affection, wealth, control, you begin to decode their behavior. The man who pretends humility seeks safety. The man who boasts of loyalty is preparing to betray. The one who speaks endlessly of virtue is often the first to sin. The signs are always there. The crowd simply refuses to read them because it prefers comfort to clarity. The true manipulator does not fight human nature, he studies it. He does not demand people be better than they are. He accepts them as they are and moves accordingly. To rule, to persuade, to survive these do not require moral perfection, but strategic understanding. A ruler who expects loyalty from the ambitious, honesty from the fearful, gratitude from the envious, is a fool dressed in virtue. To read men, you must discard hope as an instrument of judgment and replace it with observation. Hope is blindness. Observation is vision. Watch how people handle power in small things. The one who abuses small authority will commit treachery with great authority. The one who craves recognition in every meeting will one day crave it from history itself, and such hunger drives men to destroy. You must also observe how they endure insult. Pride wounded is pride revealed. Some will retreat into silence, plotting revenge. Others will laugh outwardly while bleeding within. It is in these moments that you see the true fabric of their will. Remember, insult is the mirror of ego. Reading people is an act of quiet warfare. You gather intelligence not through confrontation, but through patience. The fool demands confession. The wise man waits for time to expose it. Every man eventually confesses not through speech, but through the pattern of his actions. Give him responsibility, and he will show you his discipline. Give him praise, and he will show you his vanity. Give him temptation, and he will show you his loyalty. To the one who knows how to observe, men speak without speaking. To understand manipulation is to understand symmetry. You cannot bend others if you are bent by your own desires. The manipulator must first be a master of himself, detached, cold when necessary, immune to flattery, untempted by rage. Emotion is the easiest leash to pull, and the moment another can pull yours, you are no longer the reader, but the one being read. Power belongs to the one who remains still when all others react. Silence, in the hands of the patient, is more persuasive than any argument. A ruler's greatest weapon is not his army, nor his gold, but his ability to wait. There is beauty in control, but it is not the beauty of kindness, it is the beauty of inevitability. When you understand human nature, outcomes are predictable. You no longer act out of passion, you act out of design. You place one word here, one gesture there, one pause in between, and the web forms itself. The fool calls it luck, the wise call it foresight. Influence is not force. It is geometry, the precise arrangement of perception that leads men toward your will without their awareness. But this power comes with a price. The clearer you see, the more alone you become. The crowd cannot bear the weight of truth. It prefers stories. You will be called cold, manipulative, distant, but these are the names the blind give to those who see. You must accept solitude as the natural climate of awareness. For the higher you climb in understanding, the thinner the air of illusion becomes. The ruler's solitude is not punishment, it is perspective. When you read a man, never look only at what he shows. Look at what he avoids. The things he refuses to discuss are the shadows of his nature. The truths he mocks are the ones he fears. The people he despises often reflect what he secretly envies. To see this pattern is to see the secret map of his soul. The manipulator does not confront it, he navigates it. He moves not through direct attack, but through subtle alignment, turning another's desires into pathways of obedience. To command without words, you must master presence. Presence is silent, influence the aura that makes others measure themselves against you. It is the calm that unsettles the agitated, the confidence that disarms the boastful. It is built through restraint. The more you control what you reveal, the more others fill the silence with their own projections. Let them imagine you greater, wiser, colder than you are. Their imagination is your ally, their uncertainty is your weapon. In every relationship, one person reads and the other is read. One sees, the other performs. The balance shifts not through status, but through awareness. When you can perceive motive, emotion, and weakness faster than they can hide it, you possess advantage. That is the essence of Machiavellian perception, the speed of insight. The moment between deceit and discovery, that is where power lives. The world belongs to those who can interpret before others explain. Yet remember, this manipulation is not cruelty. It is understanding applied strategically. The ruler does not manipulate out of malice, but out of necessity. In a world ruled by appearances, those who refuse to play the theater are devoured by it. To survive, you must become both actor and audience, writer and critic. The one who sees the stage most clearly commands the play. The crowd worships sincerity because it fears intelligence. It mistakes transparency for virtue and calculation for evil. But sincerity without intelligence is suicide. The Machiavellian mind knows that goodness unarmed is helpless. Power demands disguise, and disguise demands discipline. You must learn to appear open while remaining unreadable. The eyes of the world will study your gestures. Give them just enough to see what you wish them to believe. Your silence will make them nervous. Your calm will make them confess. People fear what they cannot predict, and prediction is the cornerstone of control. Keep your reactions measured, your emotions obscured. When they cannot locate your weakness, they will reveal theirs. You must learn to reward without attachment, to punish without anger, to command without pride. The greatest rulers do not need to threaten. Their very presence organizes the behavior of others. Authority is not noise, it is gravity. Those who possess it draw others into their orbit without motion. To read people like Machiavelli is to see beneath the polite fiction of civilization. Power is not evil, it is neutral, like fire. It burns or illuminates depending on who holds it. The wise ruler understands that every act of manipulation must serve a design larger than ego stability, order, legacy. For without purpose, manipulation becomes chaos, and chaos devours even its architect. So read them. Read their eyes when they lie, their hands when they flatter, their silence when they plot. See the tremor in their ambition, the mask of their humility, the hunger behind their smiles. See them not as enemies or allies, but as forces of nature, storms to navigate, winds to harness. To understand them is to rule them. To rule them is not to enslave them, but to orchestrate the inevitable, silently, precisely, invisibly. And when all is done, when the world calls you ruthless, remember, the surgeon is called cruel by the dying disease. The moment you understand people, you understand history. Empires rise and fall not because of fate, but because of human nature repeating itself under different banners. The courtier of Florence, the bureaucrat of the modern state, the corporate strategist, the influencer all move by the same psychology. They desire recognition. They fear irrelevance. They envy control. Strip away the costumes of their age, and the same naked instincts remain. To read one man deeply is to read the whole of mankind. Power is a mirror that never lies. It magnifies every flaw, exposes every pretense. Those who seek power to heal their insecurity will always destroy, because power expands the disease within. But the one who seeks power to understand who wields it as an instrument, not an identity, becomes untouchable. He sees the world not through the lens of morality, but through consequence. And consequence is the truest language of politics. You must train your perception to be sharper than your desire. Most men are blinded by what they want to be true. They fail to see what is true. When your mind no longer flinches before discomfort, you begin to see the geometry of behavior as clearly as a mathematician sees patterns in chaos. That man who smiles too quickly has something to gain. That man who agrees too easily has something to hide. That one who preaches unity fears isolation. Human behavior is not random. It is a map of survival drawn in invisible ink. The Machiavellian eye reads it effortlessly. There is no greater deception than self-deception. The most dangerous liar is not the one who lies to others, but the one who lies to himself. The ruler who believes his own propaganda, the lover who believes his own excuses, the general who believes his army invincible, they are already defeated. To see others clearly, you must first cut through your own delusions. You must learn to doubt your first impression, to question your emotions, to separate perception from projection. Every mind has blind spots, and the wise ruler studies them as carefully as he studies the weaknesses of his enemies. Learn to interpret emotion as signal. Anger reveals insecurity. Laughter reveals defense. Sudden silence reveals calculation. The body speaks before the tongue does, and when the two disagree, the body is telling the truth. Observe the eyes, they never lie. Observe the rhythm of breath. It betrays what words try to disguise. A pause, a shift, a swallowed word. These are messages written in the grammar of instinct. Once you become fluent in that language, no one can deceive you for long. Manipulation is often seen as an act of evil by those who do not understand it. But in truth, it is simply the art of steering human nature rather than being dragged by it. The wise do not manipulate to destroy, but to direct. The politician who calms a mob with illusion prevents bloodshed. The leader who flatters an enemy into surrender saves armies. The The strategist who disguises truth until the time is right preserves the state. In politics, timing sanctifies deception. The crowd craves sincerity, yet punishes honesty. It demands leaders who appear moral, not those who are effective. Therefore, the ruler must wear morality as a uniform, visible, clean, convincing while within. He measures everything by necessity. The people cannot bear to see the mechanics of power. They wish to be governed by myth, not by calculation. Give them the myth, but rule by calculation. That is the only way to maintain order in a world addicted to appearances. You must understand that every relationship is political. Even love contains strategy. Every confession is a negotiation. Every act of generosity hides a ledger of expectation. The only question is whether you are aware of it or not. Those who deny the political nature of human relations are the easiest to control. The one who believes all affection is pure will be destroyed by manipulation disguised as devotion. The one who believes loyalty is permanent will be betrayed by time. To read people like Machiavelli, you must see the theater and the machinery behind it simultaneously. You must hear the music of emotion, but never dance to it. You must let others play their roles while you direct the stage. They will think you are participating, when in truth you are conducting. Your restraint will frustrate them. Your indifference will confuse them. They will try to provoke reaction, do not give it. The moment you react, you lose your vantage point. Remain still, and the play reveals itself to you. There is power in mystery. The unknown provokes imagination, and imagination is stronger than fear. If people cannot read you, they will overestimate you. If they overestimate you, they will hesitate. And hesitation in others is control for you. Never explain too much. Never justify. The more you speak, the more you are defined. The more you are defined, the easier it is to be manipulated. Silence is your fortress. Obscurity, your armor. Remember this. Those who proclaim their innocence most loudly are often the ones hiding the darkest ambitions. The truly virtuous do not need to prove themselves. They are too busy acting. The manipulator thrives not by declaring his intentions, but by letting others declare his virtues for him. Appear modest, act decisive, appear generous, remain strategic, appear transparent. Conceal your will. The art is not to deceive for pleasure, but to guide perception toward order. Do not underestimate envy. It is the most corrosive force in the social order. It hides behind admiration, disguises itself as concern, and strikes when opportunity arises. You must learn to detect it early in tone, in compliment, in faint sarcasm. Envy is loyalty's twin shadow. It smiles as it waits for your fall. Guard yourself not by confrontation, but by distance. Let them admire your results, but never let them feel your ease. A man envied for his power is feared. A man envied for his peace is hated. Most people do not want truth. They want comfort. They will follow the one who lies beautifully before they obey the one who speaks plainly. The ruler who understands this can turn deception into stability. Lies, when crafted with purpose, preserve harmony better than chaotic truth. The wise ruler lies not to exploit, but to maintain the fabric that the truth would tear. The foolish idealist tells the truth and wonders why the world burns. To read people, observe not their virtues, but their habits. Virtues are what they wish to display. Habits are what they cannot hide. Habits reveal the architecture of the mind, repetition without awareness. Watch where they sit, how they eat, how they react to small delays. Habits are the script the unconscious writes while the conscious performs, and the one who reads habits can predict destiny. In the end, manipulation is not about control over others. It is about clarity within oneself. When you can see clearly without emotion, without moral confusion, manipulation becomes simply the use of truth others ignore. The Machiavellian does not create deception. He merely rearranges perception. He does not corrupt. He reveals. The fool believes he is playing a game. The wise knows he is living within one. The world has never rewarded innocence. It rewards perception, and perception is the weapon of the modern prince, the ruler of institutions, of systems, of minds. Those who cannot read others will forever be written by them, but the one who sees through the fabric of intention who listens beneath words, who watches beneath smiles. He becomes invisible, untouchable, inevitable, because in the end, power is not about what you control, it is about what you understand. And the one who understands everything, even the hearts of men, no longer needs to command. The world rearranges itself to his silence. Consider the courtroom of politics, not the one of law, but the one of public perception. Observe the leader who rises quickly, beloved for his charm and spontaneity. He appears honest, disarming, open, but what you see is not honesty, it is performance. He gives the crowd just enough imperfection to appear human, just enough vulnerability to disarm suspicion. The people do not trust the flawless, they trust the flawed who manage their flaws well. His true genius lies in timing. He exposes his weaknesses before others can weaponize them. Thus, he turns confession into control, humility into strategy. This is how a man conquers hearts while guarding his throne. Look at the manipulator in the boardroom. He does not dominate through aggression, but through suggestion. When a rival proposes an idea, he does not oppose it outright. He nods, pauses, and asks one quiet question that plants uncertainty. What if the numbers don't hold? The idea begins to unravel not by argument, but by doubt. He lets others destroy themselves with over-explanation. The silent manipulator speaks in implications, not declarations. His greatest victories are invisible decisions made by others under the illusion of freedom. The diplomat understands that truth is negotiable. He speaks not to be believed, but to be useful. He studies his counterpart's vanity, mirrors it subtly, feeds it slowly. If the man wishes to be seen as wise, he frames every suggestion as if it were born from the other's mind. "You were right about this strategy," he says. "I only wish I'd seen it sooner." The diplomat knows that people would rather be admired than correct, and thus he wins agreements not by logic, but by flattery disguised as insight. This is not deception, it is choreography. The seducer uses a different language, but the same principle. He does not chase, he creates absence. He speaks rarely, but each word carries intent. He withdraws affection not to punish, but to provoke. The human heart confuses uncertainty with passion. He allows others to invent meaning where there is only calculation. Desire thrives in ambiguity. Certainty kills it. Thus, he rules through silence, not through affection, through presence that cannot be fully possessed. The priest of ideology, the influencer, the activist, the modern moralist manipulates through moral superiority. He creates division not by force, but by shame. He paints the world in contrasts. Good versus evil, loyal versus traitor, believer versus heretic. He knows that unity through guilt is stronger than unity through truth. When he convinces others that disagreement is sin, he no longer needs to persuade. He commands. Moral certainty is the most seductive form of power because it hides control beneath virtue. Watch the general. He does not need to win every battle. He needs to control the terrain. When he retreats, it is not defeat, it is redirection. He reads his enemies as one reads a storm, not to stop it, but to steer it. He studies their overconfidence, their hunger for immediate victory, and uses it against them. He will offer bait, disguised as opportunity, and in taking it, his enemy traps himself. The general manipulates time as much as men. He knows that patience is the deadliest weapon in the arsenal of power. In every field, the principle remains the same: perception governs reality. The ruler, the lover, the soldier, the priest, the merchant all succeed or perish by how well they read and shape the minds around them. To see through others is not cruelty, it is protection. The naive drown in sentiment, the perceptive float on strategy. Now imagine the ambitious apprentice in a modern world, a young strategist in the machinery of corporations, governments, and network. He watches his superiors carefully, noting which ones mistake authority for competence. He learns not from what they teach, but from what they hide. He observes who interrupts, who flatters, who hesitates before speaking, who avoids eye contact when truth is near. Each gesture becomes a signal not of words, but of power. Soon, he can predict not only decisions, but emotions before they appear. This is his silent education in control. He realizes that people are predictable under pressure, The visionary loses temper when ignored. The moralist becomes ruthless when his virtue is challenged. The loyal subordinate betrays first when promotion is delayed. Pressure is the test that reveals all masks. Thus, he creates pressure, strategically small tests, calculated tensions, subtle inconveniences to see who cracks and who adapts. Reading people, he discovers, is not passive observation. It is active experimentation. The strategist learns that generosity can be a weapon. To give too much creates debt. To forgive too easily weakens authority. To promise without delivering keeps others in suspense. The art lies in balance, enough reward to maintain loyalty, enough scarcity to maintain hunger. People bound by gratitude may turn. People bound by dependency cannot. Control is not built on affection, but on need. Consider the tyrant who destroys himself through isolation. Surrounded by flatterers, he believes himself adored, but adoration is the most dangerous narcotic. It blinds judgment, corrodes fear, and invites betrayal. The wise ruler surrounds himself with honest liars, men who know how to flatter publicly but warn privately. He listens not to praise, but to patterns. The voice that agrees too often must be tested. The one that contradicts rarely should be protected. True loyalty resists when others conform. Observe the artist of persuasion, not the poet, but the propagandist. He never imposes belief. He frames emotion. He sells narratives, not facts. He knows that people crave belonging more than truth. If he can make them feel part of something greater, he owns their reasoning. The most effective manipulation does not command obedience. It builds identity. Once people see themselves in your vision, they will defend it against reason itself. And then there is the master of patience, the quiet figure who says little achieves much and never reveals his intent. He builds influence through consistency. He listens more than he speaks. He corrects without humiliation, rewards without excess. Over time, others begin to defer to him unconsciously. His authority grows not by proclamation, but by habit. That is the purest power. Power without effort, leadership without command. You see, manipulation is not one shape. It adapts to every climate. In the palace, it wears silk and speaks softly. In the market, it bargains and smiles. In love, it whispers devotion. In war, it disguises strategy as honor. The wise ruler reads all its dialects. He does not moralize about them, he translates them. The fool calls manipulation evil because he cannot see its necessity. The wise call it language, for it is through influence that order survives chaos. Reading people is not an act of cruelty, it is an act of realism. For to govern the world, you must first understand the hearts that sustain it. And when you do, when you see the invisible motives behind every word, every alliance, every gesture, you no longer chase power, you become it. You no longer fight the current. You become the tide that moves all beneath it. And the world, unaware, will continue to speak of luck, destiny, and fate, while you, silent and unseen, are the one shaping them all. To read people like Machiavelli is to transcend sympathy and enter the realm of pure perception. It is not about judgment or morality, but about decoding the machinery beneath behavior, the unspoken logic that drives every decision, every alliance, every betrayal. It is not a matter of eyes, but of awareness. You see not what people are doing, but why they are doing it. You sense the hidden architecture of intention behind every smile, every silence, every seemingly random act. It is the quiet science of human movement, the study of motive through consequence. The art of silent manipulation begins where speech ends. It is the power to move others without visible motion, to bend will without direct command. You do not persuade, you arrange. You do not convince, you condition. The world believes you calm because you rarely react, yet beneath your composure lies constant measurement. You calculate without cruelty, choosing moments with surgical precision. The less you reveal, the more others expose. The less you demand, the more they volunteer. That is the silent art to let people think they are free, while guiding them toward the result you designed, long before they noticed. In this art, control is not an act, but an atmosphere. It is the invisible tension that makes others hesitate, the the calm that makes them seek your approval. Your silence becomes magnetic. Your indifference becomes weight. People interpret your restraint as superiority, your distance as depth. They project intelligence onto what they cannot read. This projection is your camouflage, and from within it, you influence without resistance. The greatest manipulation is not to force others into obedience, but to make them find comfort in your authority. To master this art, you must learn stillness. Stillness is not passivity, it is readiness. It allows you to hear what others rush to conceal, to observe what they are too loud to notice. In stillness, the manipulator becomes mirror. Others reveal themselves in the reflection of your silence. The moment they believe you are harmless, they expose their ambition. The moment they believe you agree, they surrender their defense. And in that surrender, control is complete. You must understand that manipulation is not conquest, it is orchestration. Every human being moves according to the rhythm of desire and fear. To control rhythm, you do not shout over the music, you adjust the tempo. Slow the conversation, redirect emotion, redirect focus. Manipulation is subtle engineering, the rearrangement of emotional energy until your will becomes indistinguishable from the other's choice. You have not taken freedom from them, you have guided it. The essence of this art lies in perception management. It is not what you are that matters, it is what you appear to be at the right moment. To the ambitious, you appear as opportunity, to the insecure, as reassurance, to the powerful, as reflection. You shape yourself not to deceive, but to fit the contour of others' needs. By mirroring their world, you gain passage into their confidence. Influence enters softly, under the guise of familiarity. The one who feels understood becomes open, and openness is the gateway of control. You must never show intent too early. Intention, once visible, invites defense. The silent manipulator moves like water, filling the spaces others leave, adapting to their structure until their resistance becomes your path. You win not by opposition, but by absorption. When others speak of competition, you have already become the current that carries them. This art thrives on patience. Power gained too quickly decays quickly. You must allow perception to ferment. The longer they underestimate you, the deeper your roots grow beneath their awareness. When the moment comes to act, you will not need to force the outcome. It will unfold naturally, as if inevitable. People will call it destiny. You will know it as design. To manipulate silently, you must master emotional neutrality. Every reaction betrays position. The one who can remain unmoved cannot be mapped. When others grow emotional, let their passion reveal their coordinates. When they demand response, give them silence. The less you engage, the more they reveal. Emotion is the smoke of the battlefield, and the one who breathes calmly within it controls the direction of war. The manipulator's greatest strength is not deception, but focus. While others are tangled in ego, he remains centered on purpose. He sees through flattery and insult alike, unmoved by the tides of approval. For both praise and criticism are forms of dependency attempts to shape your perception of yourself. When you are free from the need to be understood, you gain the ability to understand others without distortion. Then, influence flows naturally because you are no longer reacting, you are directing. Power through silence is a paradox. It works because it seems like nothing. The crowd associates control with command, dominance with display. They cannot comprehend the authority of stillness, the dominance of patience, the aggression of absence. They cannot fight what they cannot name, and so they surrender to it, unknowingly obeying without resistance, admiring without reason. This is how silent manipulation governs nations, corporations, families, entire civilizations, through the invisible agreement that power should feel natural, not imposed. Reading people, then, becomes more than observation. It becomes translation. You translate their fears into choices, their desires into dependencies, their weaknesses into motion. Every emotion they display becomes material for your architecture. You do not suppress or punish it, you shape it. You take what they already are and make it serve what you intend. That is the highest mastery, to lead others, using only what already lives within them. The art of silent manipulation is not for those seeking applause. It is for those who understand that influence loses power when seen. You do not chase recognition. You operate beneath it. You are not the voice that commands, but the pause that redirects the conversation. You are not the hand that strikes, but the shadow that moves before it. You are the quiet force that makes the visible appear inevitable. To read people like Machiavelli is to live in constant awareness, never asleep to motive, never bound by sentiment, never trapped by impulse. It is to walk through the theater of life with eyes that see beyond the performance, to hear beneath the applause the trembling note of ambition, to feel beneath the harmony of words the rhythm of control. And in that awareness lies liberation. For when you see clearly, you no longer need to dominate. The world moves to your rhythm naturally, quietly, completely. The mastery of reading people and the art of silent manipulation begins not with others, but within yourself. You cannot perceive with clarity if your own motives cloud your vision. To understand the minds of others, you must first silence the noise within your own. Every attachment to being liked, to being right, to being perceived as moral blurs perception. The manipulator does not suppress emotion. He observes it. He treats his feelings as data, not directives. Anger is measured. Desire is decoded. Fear is studied. Self-awareness is the first form of control. Until you can read yourself with precision, you remain vulnerable to every external influence. Control, then, is not an external pursuit, but an internal equilibrium. When others lose composure, the manipulator gains distance. He sees the battlefield of human behavior as a chessboard of emotion, predictable, cyclical, rhythmic. Every outrage, every confession, every attempt at persuasion is a move in that game. Those who cannot govern their impulses are mere pieces. Those who can remain detached control the board. Silence becomes a signal, restraint becomes pressure. Even your lack of reaction becomes a form of dominance, because people interpret it as judgment, strength, or superiority, whatever their mind needs to project. Reading people is an act of focus. You must learn to watch not what they claim, but what they repeat. What they repeat reveals obsession. What they avoid reveals guilt. Their humor exposes resentment. Their advice exposes vanity. When you listen deeply, you begin to hear the echoes of self-interest in every tone. No one speaks neutrally. Every word serves a purpose: to impress, to defend, to dominate, to belong. When you recognize this, conversation transforms into revelation. You no longer hear what is said. You hear why it is said. In silence, manipulation becomes effortless. You guide others not by resistance but by redirection. When you remove confrontation, you remove defense. You do not block their will, you bend it. You allow them to feel victorious while quietly steering their victory into your advantage. The secret is not to dominate, but to define. Whoever defines the meaning of an interaction controls it. You can win any argument not by defeating words, but by setting the frame through which those words are interpreted. Every environment, political, social, personal, is governed by unspoken rules, invisible hierarchies, emotional currencies. The manipulator does not fight them. He rearranges them. He turns insecurity into loyalty, pride into obedience, confusion into compliance. He knows that people are driven more by perception than by fact. If you can make someone feel understood, you do not need to prove anything. If you can make them feel seen, you do not need to convince. Perception replaces persuasion. Silence in manipulation is not absence, it is precision. Every pause becomes a mirror. People fill it with their own assumptions. They confess, justify, reveal. You speak less so others can expose more. They mistake your restraint for patience, your stillness for depth. But in truth, you are calculating not to exploit, but to understand the architecture of influence. The more they reveal, the clearer the blueprint of their mind becomes. Power built on silence endures because it provokes no rebellion. People resist the obvious tyrant, but they surrender to the invisible one. The overt manipulator breeds paranoia. The subtle one breeds trust. Invisibility is the final mask of mastery. The goal is not to appear powerful, but to become indispensable. The one who seems harmless becomes essential, and what is essential cannot be opposed without consequence. The silent manipulator creates systems of dependency that sustain themselves. He does not need to remind others of his authority. They remind themselves. He structures the environment so that loyalty feels like choice, obedience feels like cooperation, and control feels like harmony. This is not oppression, it is engineering. It is the design of power that maintains order without coercion. The state, the corporation, the relationship, all function on this principle. To read people like Machiavelli is to enter a mental silence so profound that perception sharpens into intuition. You begin to feel motive before it forms, sense betrayal before it acts, recognize deception before it speaks. You do not need to analyze, you simply know. Intuition, at its highest level, is intelligence purified by experience. It is the mind's ability to calculate at the speed of instinct. The manipulator does not rely on guesswork. His intuition is refined observation turned automatic. The art of silent manipulation is not cruelty disguised as intellect. It is order disguised as empathy. You create stability by understanding the chaos of human nature. You guide the emotional storms of others toward predictable outcomes. You do not suppress their passion. You harness it. You do not erase their ambition. You redirect it. You are not the fire. You are the wind that decides where it burns. True manipulation is subtle governance of perception. The greatest rulers, the most enduring leaders, the invisible architects of society, they do not shout commands or display dominance. They make others feel seen, valued, chosen. They understand that power enforced by fear collapses with rebellion, but power built on perception endures through generations. It is the kind of influence that moves beneath consciousness, shaping belief itself. When you learn to read people like Machiavelli, your power becomes quiet, almost invisible. You no longer chase advantage, you anticipate it. You no longer react to betrayal, you predict it. You no longer fight chaos, you absorb it into design. You no longer play the game of manipulation, you become the one who built its rules. And in that mastery, you arrive at the final truth. Control does not come from domination, but from comprehension. To understand is to own. The moment you see through the veil of motive and illusion, the world ceases to resist you. It begins to move with you quietly, willingly, inevitably. When you reach that point of mastery, you no longer need to prove anything. The room adjusts to your silence. The ambitious lower their tone. The insecure seek your approval. The powerful hesitate before disagreeing. You have become the unseen center of gravity. Authority radiates not from your words, but from the certainty behind them. A certainty born of perception, so refined it borders on omniscience. You no longer interpret people, you feel them. Every gesture is a line of code. Every hesitation a message. The world speaks to you in signals, and you are fluent in its secret language. In this state, manipulation is no longer deliberate. It becomes natural. Influence emanates as instinct. You do not plan what to say. You know what to say. You do not calculate reactions. They align themselves around you. Your understanding of human nature is so complete that you no longer struggle against it. You let it unfold, directing outcomes through suggestion, rhythm, and silence. People will call you charismatic, magnetic, trustworthy, but these are merely the reflections of their own projection. You are the mirror in which they see what they most desire to believe. The art of silent manipulation reaches perfection when no one suspects it exists. When others think they are free, yet act in perfect harmony with your design, then you have achieved total control. It is not control through fear or domination, but through alignment. You have tuned human behavior to the frequency of your intention. The emotional, the rational, the chaotic all dance within your order, unaware that it was you who composed the rhythm. And yet, such power requires distance. You cannot immerse yourself in the passions you orchestrate. Compassion, yes, but not entanglement. You can understand emotion, but never drown in it. You can guide affection, but never depend on it. Attachment clouds perception. The manipulator who begins to love his design loses it. Influence requires perspective, and perspective demands solitude. There is a quiet tragedy in mastery. The more you see, the less you belong. The more you understand, the fewer you can trust. To read people completely is to live among them like an actor who knows the script too well, unable to suspend disbelief, forever aware of the machinery behind the play. But this isolation is the final price of command. The ruler must learn to bear solitude as his crown. In the end, silent manipulation is not about deception, it is about comprehension elevated to sovereignty. It is the science of human nature in its purest form, stripped of illusion and sentiment. To read people like Machiavelli is to see life as it is, not as we wish it to be. It is to understand that truth, when wielded without vanity, becomes the most precise instrument of control. And when you wield it well, when your silence directs nations, your calm decides outcomes, your awareness bends fate, you no longer chase power. You are power. Quiet, inevitable, unseen. In the end, the art of reading people like Machiavelli is not a tool for cruelty, but for lucidity. It is the discipline of seeing clearly in a world that thrives on illusion. The weak cling to appearances, the wise observe the current beneath them. To see people as they are, not as they pretend to be, is to strip away the fog that blinds most of humanity. Once you learn to see without sentiment, you cease to be controlled by flattery, anger, or fear. You stand apart, not above aware, not indifferent. The true manipulator does not seek to destroy or deceive. He seeks to understand and arrange. His silence is not emptiness, but depth. His restraint is not weakness, but design. The world obeys laws older than morality, desire, fear, pride, survival. The one who understands these currents does not resist them. He navigates them with precision, turning chaos into structure, conflict into advantage. And when the moment comes, when the storm rises, when loyalties shift, when ambition poisons trust, he remains still. Others panic, but he observes. Others react, but he decides. His calm is not the absence of emotion, but the presence of mastery. The art of silent manipulation is not about dominance, but direction, not about winning every game, but writing its rules. The Machiavellian mind walks through life unseen, yet unmistakably felt. His power does not announce itself, it emanates. He does not demand loyalty, he creates gravity. In the end, those who shout of virtue will fade, those who fight for control will burn, but the one who understands human nature will endure quiet, unshaken, inevitable. For the world always belongs to those who can see it as it truly is, and move within it without being seen.